Hi guys, it's Haley, your nutritionist. And today I have a very special guest that's joining me. She is one of our community members, and I asked Melissa to come on. Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
And to just kind of share with us and walk through the process of filling out your health wish list, your self-assessment questionnaire, and then ultimately all of us getting to what we call your request for care, or you'll hear me a lot of times call it a Dear Dr. Sanders letter. So for years, I worked in a multidisciplinary practice where we had, OBGYN, nephrology, cardiology, you name it, internal medicine, GP. And we engaged with a lot of clients together. And the biggest thing that I found was that there was a lot of lack of communication when an individual felt like they were needing to engage some sort of healthcare practitioner. And Melissa, it could be anybody from an OBGYN to acupuncturist to a cardiologist, really just bringing someone else into your world. And what we're looking for is for them to be in a place of service to you, right? This actually kind of transpired what I call a Dear Dr. Sanders letter, or a request for care. So you guys, I want you to make sure that you've printed out your own request for care. It's in your members section. You should also have your creating your health wish list and your self-assessment paperwork, okay? You can pause this if you need to, or you can come back and watch it again. But those two sheets, the creating a health wish list and your self-assessment, really help us fill out the request for care. So this all came about for me with our community, and Melissa, I think this is going to be super effective and helpful for you because I find it helpful with my clients, is when I had a client that came in that saw a physician that I had actually referred them to, and they came in and they said, I don't know this doctor, they were horrible, I didn't get any of the tests run that I want, I wasn't listened to. And I thought, gosh, this is really interesting because from a practical perspective, they're a very good doctor. And I said, kind of talk me through this, and we talked through it. And I said, well, what did you tell them you wanted? What did you tell them you needed? What did you tell them that was going on? And they said, well, he's the doctor, he should know. I'm not going to go in and tell him how to be a doctor. And I went, oh, wait a minute. We've got there's a bridge that we need to gap here between what you recognize is going on with yourself, where you'd like to be, and how you communicate with a new team member. And that's what I look at all of our practitioners as a new team member, how to communicate with a new team member effectively. So the self-assessment is sheet, and Melissa, thank you, by the way, for filling that out. Some people, attach pages and pages and pages. It's really about finding out where you are currently. And sometimes until you start filling one of these out, you might not recognize that, you're not sleeping well every night, or you maybe don't sleep well every night. Maybe that's happened for so long that you start to go, well, that's just me, right? And so assessment is, where are you currently? And then your wish list is, where do you want to be? Where do you see your future? Again, really important, and Melissa, this is with you and also with all of the community members out here watching, is that whenever you reach as high as you can reach with your health wish list, I'm always going to be there pushing you a little bit further. Because what I find is people say, I just want to have enough energy to get through the day. I want to change that mindset and that verbiage for you to say, I want to have enough energy to have a glorious day and give some away to anybody else in need, right? I want that much for you. So as you guys are filling out your self-assessment, I want you to be brutally honest. This is the time with the self-assessment questionnaire to be cathartic. I always say, Melissa, the chair that you're sitting in, if you were in my actual office, I say that's the narcissistic chair. It is 100% about you right now. And when you're out there in the community and you're filling this out, you can keep this private to yourself. This is 100% about what is going on right now. I have people that come in and I say, do you deal with constipation? And they say, not really. And I say, well, are you having 1 to 2 bowel movements a day? No, 1 to 2 a week. And I say, okay, that's constipation. So sometimes, again, that communication. So it was interesting. And Melissa, one of the reasons why I was so happy that you agreed to do this was I recently had, and this was an actual client that came in that was having seizures and had been to the emergency room with seizures. And I said, well, let's pull together everything that they've run so far, labs that have been run, what's gone on. And she was almost going to abandon her doctor because we looked at everything and literally they had run like a basic chem panel. And they basically said, well, emergency room doesn't look like you're going to die right now, so we're going to send you home. And that's good, emergency intervention. But then she went to the doctor and she says, well, you're not in the middle of a seizure right now, so we're going to send you home. and nothing was really pursued with that except for seizure medications. And this particular client really wanted to understand if there was a possibility of figuring out the why. So we went through, we filled out the self-assessment questionnaire, we filled out the wish list, and I actually found out that she had a few desires for her health that she had never even told her doctor about, she had never even really thought about. And we then filled out the request for care, and we recently got back all the labs and found some really cool things in it. I get a chance to talk to her doctor, and she was like, I didn't know all this was going on with her, and I didn't know that this is what she desired. And it just kind of made me double down again and feel like everybody in our community needs this. So Melissa, if you could just share with our community maybe 2 things on your health wish list that you would like to see and have realized in your health going forward. And it can be your future self tomorrow or your future self 6 months from now. And remember this, when you sit in a chair and when you're part of my community, I have this magic wand that anything is possible.
Okay, 2 things for me would be to get my hormones under control.
Okay.
Because I've noticed it's been a long time. My daughter's gonna be 7 after I give birth. Everything has been out of whack.
Okay.
And that is the biggest issue that I have.
Okay.
Other than that, energy, that would be amazing.
Are you waking up with energy, or is it draggy all day? Is there a particular time?
Yeah, I'm tired all day. There's fatigue all day long, and I substitute with coffee, which I'm trying to not do as much. Caffeine is not what I want to lean on.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times it's a necessity.
Right.
For me. Other than that, just more energy, less anxiety. There's a long list. you said 2, but I have a long list.
That's okay. Let's start there together for a second, and let's start kind of formulating what particularly we want to ask for. A really good book to have when you're doing this is the Food RX book. And the reason why I love that book is in the back of it, it has a lab request in each chapter. What those labs are for, because it'd be really important if we're going to say we want our hormones balanced. The doctor's going to, say, okay, we'll set your hormones on this tightrope and let me help you balance them. How do we talk that to a practitioner talk? Whether it's and we'll do that in just a second. Whether it's an acupuncturist or it's a OBGYN or fertility specialist, we want to communicate, kind of articulate that. So if you go and you have your Dear Dr. Sanders letter, right? We want to fill in the first thing, Dear Doctor, and Sanders is the one that I use a lot. And it starts with, I'm having some health issues that are very concerning to me. In addition to the normal labs, so I always say that is an as if. So you're going to walk in and say, of course we're going to run labs. This is either my annual physical, or I'm coming to you because there's a problem, and I'm assuming you're not maybe going to use psychic powers to determine what's going on with me. We're going to use some physical science, and so that's why I like to start it that way, is acting as if, right? The confidence to be the advocate for your healthcare. So in addition to the normal labs we would run at this visit, can we please run some diagnostics so that I can help define what's going on with me? The reason I'm requesting these is because I'm experiencing. So you can use this exact letter. My clients use this exact letter. It is kind of funny in the Burbank area because I work with so many doctors there. They know who wrote this, right? But you can use your own words or your own verbiage. This is a start, but please feel welcome to do it. So right away we've said, you know, I'm not coming in here because I need a flu shot. I'm not coming in here because I've got a corn on my toe. I'm coming in here because I have some concerns. And the word concerns will elevate it, turn on kind of some listening ears, whether again, no matter whatever practitioner. And so let's take and articulate what you told us already. The reason I'm requesting this is because I'm experiencing. So I liked the word that you used with you said fatigue. Okay, so I'm experiencing fatigue. We're just going to define these in a couple words. We're experiencing some anxiety. And I'm going to say some signs of hormone imbalance, okay? Does that sound good to you?
It definitely does. I'm just writing as you talk.
Perfect. I just want to, like, we're filling out a paragraph for our 5th grade essay writing. When you say signs of a hormone imbalance, and again, can you give me 2 to 3 signs of those hormone imbalances?
Yes, I have.
The sharing.
Well, I'm an open book, so I apologize in advance.
No, we talk about everything here.
So I have irregular periods.
Okay.
I have heavy menstrual bleeding.
Okay.
I have facial hair that
Okay.
my daughter tells me I have a beard. So
Okay.
that is one thing that I would like to rectify.
Perfect. So I'm going to just help you help your doctor a little bit. And
Okay.
so this is, we want to think about this, like, again, 5th grade paragraph writing. You gave me 3 main topics. So when you say irregular periods, and you guys, I want you doing this. I don't want you walking to the doctor saying, I'm tired. I want you to walk into saying, my energy level was an 8. I always wanted it a 10, but now we're talking a 6, and that's unlike me, and I'm super concerned, right? You have to articulate your story in a way that gets them to feel as passionate about your wellness as you do. And you have, like, if you got a good doctor, you got 7 minutes. On average, you're seeing your doctor for 3 to 6 minutes. So the more you can prep for this, and again, this letter is going to go to the nurse. You're going to send it to the doctor's office when you schedule your appointment. You're going to have a copy for you, and you're going to have a copy for your doctor. Okay? So let's just take and let's give 2 to 3 things that tell you about irregular periods. So are they every 28 days, but short and scanty? Are they every 7 months? What do you mean by irregular periods?
Well, I got a tracker so that I could figure out what was actually going on, more so because every time I would go, they would ask me those questions and I didn't really know how to explain it or what to tell them. So I'm pulling it up right now on the phone because this is how I
that's
live.
okay. But I'm holding your feet to the fire because this is what I do with my clients so that we have a clear, concise story and we get exactly what we want. So, okay, let's irregular periods means, are they coming every month?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Sorry, looking at my check.
That's okay.
No, not every month.
Okay, so sometimes you're skipping months.
It comes like a month and a half, so I'm late. I'm always late.
Got it.
It will come, but it will be very late.
So I'm going to say not every 28 days. And they're not usually shorter, Melissa. They're usually longer. You're not having them like, okay, so this is a really important thing when we're talking about hormones. If they're coming every 7 days, or they're coming, you know, you're having 2 to 3 periods or what we call breakthrough bleeding a month, means something totally different than if you're, so we look at the lining of the uterus if we're looking at early, like you're maybe bleeding fibroids. If you're having them more frequently, we're looking at more ovary nurturing and support if you're having them, if they're stretched out further. So super important that we raise that flag, okay? So we're going to say that not every 28 days, they're longer, okay? When you say irregular, the actual act of your period, how short is it? Or is it are you bleeding one day? Are you, how long is your period? You bleed for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they usually last 5 days. So that falls into our irregular period. The next one is heavy bleeding, right?
Matt.
So the heavy bleeding, is that encompassing a lot of clotting?
I feel like it depends on the month. I don't know if it switches
That's
over
okay. Right. So
because
that's
really, 1 month is worse, more clotting. 1 month is just a lot of heavy
right.
bleeding.
Right. Okay. So heavy bleeding, every other month clotting. Okay. So, but that is something, if you guys are having periods or if you're still cycling through menopause and you're having the symptoms associated with it, really try to journal and get as much data as you can. Okay. Let's go really quick to the fatigue. You've already told me that it's kind of all day long, right? Are you sleeping through the night?
No, I have a little bit of insomnia, which
So
might be anxiety.
trouble falling asleep or waking several times?
Both.
Okay. So I'm going to put both falling asleep and staying asleep. Okay. So I want to talk about the anxiety really quick. And I want to just get a little bit of color on that. And then I'm going to show you how to pull this whole story together where you can get somebody that can come in and have a lot of data before they interject stuff. So a lot of times when we talk about sleep and we talk about anxiety, and one of the big things that a lot of my clients say why they don't make a doctor's appointment is because they say, I have anxiety or I'm not sleeping and I don't, and I'm no judgment if you do want to do this, but this is what clients sometimes reflect to me. I say, well, why haven't we gotten in and had some labs run? And they say, because I go in and I tell them I'm not sleeping and I'm having anxiety, and they give me Ambien and they give me an anxiety medication. And I, to the point literally where I have to beg clients sometimes to get back into their physician or their practitioner because they're not looking for a fix, they're looking for a why. And that's the power of this letter, okay? So you're going to take your, like when you get your Dr. Sanders letter, we get it all pulled together at the end of this, you're going to highlight those little things and you're going to make sure that you have it in front of you and you communicate, because it can be intimidating. Again, whatever, you're going to a chiropractor, you need to say, I'm having fatigue, anxiety, I'm having alternate month heavy bleeding and clotting. I want you to know that my periods have now lengthened, they're irregular, and I'm not falling asleep well, I'm not staying asleep well, and I'm having anxiety that looks like this. So let's define that. So talk to me. When you wake up is anxiety, does it feel transitional? Like, meaning, is there a low level all day long and it surges? Or does it come out of nowhere, more like, and it can be both, but more like panic attack? And then I'm going to ask you times of days too.
Okay. I think for me, it's more like a anxious mood swing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, it's I get really snappy. Sometimes I get panicky, but not to an overwhelming
Right.
place. Like it doesn't, I feel like it's not debilitating to my life and controlling me, but it's not ideal.
So that goes back to your health wish list. And I don't ever want you to tell your doctor that it's okay. It's okay that or it's not okay. You want to say, I want to, okay, I'm having anxiety. Let me just reflect back to what I heard and you tell me if I'm hearing you correctly. I'm having anxiety that feels like it accompanies kind of mood swings. I feel like I'm kind of holding my shit together, but it doesn't feel the way that I know I can feel, which is a sense of inner peace and joy that's like when I sweat, it comes out of my armpits.
100%. You nailed it.
If you don't tell them what you want, you are dragging he or she, your doctor, up a very large hill. And they at least, I mean, it's just a lot of work for you. So you set the pace and you set the goal always. And this is what I tell my clients always. And what can happen is if you say it's okay, you're telling someone, don't give me appropriate care, adequate care. And that's the big conferences or the conversations that I have with a lot of the physicians that I work with. So I do a lot of consulting for doctors that want to start integrative healthcare practices. And one of the things that I always say is, you know, you have to get them to dream big, and then you have to be their biggest cheerleader. If you do nothing else for the client, and then you have to be a diagnostician like a hound dog on a hunt, right? Okay. So what I heard her say, all you guys, and what I heard you guys saying is that she's having anxiety that feels like it accompanies mood swings. My other question with anxiety is, do you feel elated or giddy after let's talk about a real strong anxiety surge, or do you feel weepy and tired?
Probably more tired.
Okay. So a lot of times with anxiety, when we're looking at which metabolic pathway can we nurture, we like to look at the aftermath of an anxiety surge. So some people get an endorphin surge afterwards, and they get hyper afterwards. We see this a lot with our kids that get anxiety, and they'll bite, or they'll break things, or they'll cut things. And in an adult, they'll bite, meaning they'll tell you to buzz off, you know, they'll act out. When you see, and that's a lot of the endorphins, some of those neurotransmitters. When you see a lot of serotonin, the person or the kid will retreat and seem tired. They can even look like they have dark circles. An adult will retreat and seem more, instead of biting your head off, they'll wait till you turn your back and stab you in the back. Like that energy is just a little bit different. So it's really good to know all of those kinds of things. So let's go. Also, please note that. So if you go to the next section of your Dear Dr. Sanders letter, it says also please note that you said something interesting to us all earlier, was that you have a daughter that is 6 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything during that, because we're talking hormones, and pregnancy, menopause, the onset of menses are really critical times for hormone fluctuations. Is there anything during your pregnancy that was remarkable, or since your pregnancy, or having a hard time getting pregnant? Any of those fall true to you?
Well, actually, it's funny you bring that up. When I was told I could not have children because I have PCOS, endometriosis, and I had cervical cancer.
Okay.
So those things happened before her, and I actually was shown the FMD, and I did about 3 months on that right before I got pregnant, and then all of a sudden I was pregnant. I actually thought the doctor had the wrong file when he came in. He came in and was like, "Congratulations," and I was like, "No, that's somebody else's. I can't have a baby." And yeah, so
I know. I'm like, I didn't know that. Okay.
So that was incredible. And she's 6. I was on bed rest, so there were some things
So talk
with
to me
that.
about complications during pregnancy, bed rest because of.
They thought that I was not going to be able to carry her to term.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to try and keep myself together because I didn't know that.
Hormones.
We can't cut the camera. That's one thing I love about our community is we're all in this together. You're not alone. So thank you for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. I know everybody will also. But if you went in to go to a doctor right now, a new doctor or an acupuncturist or a chiropractor, do you think that would be something that you would share with them right away?
Probably.
Okay, good. So let's articulate it here. Also, please note that my daughter is 6, and I was told I couldn't get pregnant because of PCOS diagnosis, endometriosis diagnosis, and a history of cervical cancer. I don't care if this is the doctor you've seen for 48 years. I don't care if this is the doctor that did the cervical cancer diagnosis. They see many, many people, and you want to always stand out during that appointment. And so you want to tell them something remarkable about your health. And so my daughter's 6, I was told I couldn't get pregnant. This is why I had a successful pregnancy with bed rest. And my hormones have not stabilized since delivery. Would you say that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know about you guys, but if Melissa walked into one of our offices and she had this very succinct, compelling story, and she were to say, you know, I'm going to go see an acupuncturist. I would like to start I want to, now we're going to define what we'd like. I'd like to start an herbal process. I'd like, let's see, you're going to see a chiropractor. I'd like to understand what, and we have the protocol for progress sheet that you can fill out too, but I'd like to understand what I should expect and what I should expect through my adjustments. You're going to see a nutritionist. I'd like to know, let's set together what we should expect and what our goals are for my nutritional progress. This letter specifically, it says, this is about running some labs. I'm a lab junkie. So we're now going to tell her story. Because of blank, I'd love to run blank. If you're looking at your request for care, right? So the first thing that I'm going to always do when I'm filling these out with my client is the ones that sound the most medically scary, right? So Melissa used the C word. She said cancer. Melissa used endometriosis and PCOS. So my first thing would define it down now because of my history of cancer, PCOS, and endometriosis. So because of that previous diagnosis, I would like to run blank. I can tell you what I'd like you to run, Melissa, but in your Food RX book, if we're not sitting here together, I want you to go into the hormone section, and it gives an indication of what hormones to run and why to run them. There's insurance reasons. There's doctors need to have justification depending on if you're in a PPO or an HMO. If you have this in writing, it's really difficult, and you've told your story, it's really difficult for anybody to justify I'm not running it. So because of cancer and PCOS, I'd like to run, and we're going to run a hormone panel. So we're going to run FSH, I got all this, FSH, LH, we're going to run estrogen, fractionated estrogen, testosterone, free and total sex binding hormone globulin. You guys, it's all in here. We'll post, actually, if you go to your membership section under the hormone guide, you've got all these written down for you if you feel like this is compelling to you. So I'm going to try and define my sex hormones from my thyroid hormones when I run those. Again, it helps the doctors check the box for you to get coverage. The next thing that we're going to tackle, so the next thing that we're going to tackle is we're going to tackle fatigue in a little bit more of a medical form, okay? So because of, we're going to say, you know, fatigue and exhaustion, and we're going to use the word unexplained. So Melissa, if you told me that you had run a marathon and then grabbed groceries, then cooked for 27 people, then, you know, wrote a term paper, then, you know, diapered octuplets, and you said, Haylie, I'm tired, I'd say, go take a nap, sweetheart. But really, this is unexplained. So we want to use that word. It's something that I learned a long time ago when I was working again with a large group of physicians that, you know, there's that chronic fatigue, there's fatigue. Chronic fatigue is a very particular diagnosis now, and unexplained can really help broaden things. I would like to run. And again, this would probably fall under the thyroid category. Again, all of this is in here, guys. Please, I know we're going to do more of this. If you have questions, I just want to get us all kind of started. So we would run TSH, T3, T4, reverse T3, and uptake. So we want to look at metabolically, one of the superheroes for energy, which is fatigue. The other thing is we want to look at the adrenal, some of the adrenal output. And there's a hormone called ACTH, adrenal corticotrophic hormone, and that's another great one that would not be a bad idea to have a good baseline for you. So again, this is under the fatigue chapter, you guys. I think these are great labs to run annually for everybody that's had any hormone imbalance or episodic events with hormone fluctuations, but you want to give them a reason why to do this. Okay, so notice that I didn't say with the sex hormones being tested, I didn't say because of my bleeding and my periods. It's a lot of times you can get your hormones run, but if you can hierarchy it with a stronger diagnosis, it's easier to I'm going to use the word plead your case, and I hate that and it's frustrating, but it's easier to define your case, okay? And then we're going to talk a little bit about asking the doc, like, what, so here at the end, because of blank, you're going to have a couple blanks, right? One thing that I do is I'll say, this is what I'd loved. What additional labs do you think we should run? Not, don't ever ask if you're okay with these labs. Don't ever ask, do you think we should run these labs?
Okay.
Because we value opinion. However, you're the 24/7 expert in the body that you are walking around with. Do never ask anybody how you feel. You feel. The word you is at the beginning of it. You ask people, have empathy for other people, ask people how they feel. Don't ever ask anybody how you feel. We haven't mastered that science yet, I don't think. So we're going to use this last one, and we're going to say, in addition to the labs above, what would you like to run? Now, Melissa, because of the PCOS diagnosis, there are a lot of inflammatory markers that we typically run in our office with an individual that has PCOS. And we should probably do a good blog post on this. Like, we have a great blog post on the thyroid hormones to make sure that you get run. Until then, if you guys don't have that blog post yet, run the ones that are under the autoimmune category. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is PCOS, can or cannot have multiple cysts on the ovaries. There is usually some sort of inflammatory or autoimmune coupling that happens with that manifestation in the body. So we want to look at things like sedimentation rate, C-reactive protein, ESR, and ANA titers. And so where you guys would find that is in this book. And again, if you don't have the book, I think you should have the book. This is probably my favorite thing I ever wrote. But as a member, go to your section and look at your autoimmune guide. It tells you foods to eat, power foods, but also gives you the supplements, the labs and what they are. So if you have a diagnosis of lupus, PCOS, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I'm trying to think of another one, ITP, that category is really important. So Melissa, we're going to put those on yours also. Now, again, with this, what we want to do is, like I said, always keep one with you. You'll have your labs. You guys will all have your labs written down. When you go see the phlebotomist, so this happens more than you can imagine. This happened to my husband at UCLA. When you go see the phlebotomist and you guys have agreed on these labs, they're going to write you a lab requisite. You need to take this to the phlebotomist and say, before you draw my blood, can you confirm that everything I asked for is on your lab requisite? So this actually just happened. The client that I told you that had seizures, we wanted a viral profile done on her. She is prone to fever blisters, but Valtrex, the herpes antiviral drugs don't do a darn thing for her, which made me suspicious of an alternative virus as opposed to herpes simplex. So we had cytomegalovirus, we had EBV, we had a bunch of other viruses run on her. She went in, and there's a way to run viruses, which is it acute or is it historical? Immunoglobulins, there's a different way. And the doctor had only checked one box. And she went in with her little Dear Dr. Sanders letter and asked the phlebotomist, and the phlebotomist says, yes, I ran CMV IgG. And she had her little list, and she said, do you running an IgG and an IgM? She goes, I had no idea what I was talking about. And the phlebotomist says, no, he didn't call for an IgM. And she actually texted me, and I said, ask her to call the doctor and approve that. So what you don't want, and this happens a lot, we go in with our list, then, a week, 2 weeks later, we get our labs back, and half of them weren't run. And we're kind of in the same spot that we were in. So does this feel like it's a little bit knitted together for you to be able to
Definitely. I feel like I have a little bit of a blueprint on like what I need to do when I go speak to them because I don't know and I just assume that they do. And I know that they have your best interests at heart, but like you said before, you're the advocate for yourself and you know your body best. And I think that it makes me feel a little bit more confident when I go in, just
Good,
knowing how to navigate it a little bit better.
good. And then any person that you see, so you're going to have your definition guide. So let's say you come back and your CRP, your C-reactive protein is like 48, and the labs say it should be somewhere between 9. Your guide, you're going to be able to understand what that is in your body and communicate effectively. It's not about medicating the lab that's off. It's about understanding the chemistry so we can learn how to nurture and nourish your body more. So in general, when we talk about identifying these things with a hormone perspective, with the PCOS, the programs that I want you to look at, and it's because you're very dynamic, we're all dynamic beings having this biodiverse experience, I want you to look at some of the Food RX plans. I want you to look at doing like maybe an H burn.
Okay.
Doing the cleanse with us every month. We do it every month. We've got to get the hormones back into homeostasis, right? And when they're in homeostasis, they can start repairing effectively. Every day, our bodies are creating new cells and they're in the repair mode. Thank goodness. We cut ourselves, put a Band-Aid on and take it off a couple days later and it's healed, right? But the quicker we can create a homeostasis and get the chemistry balanced, it's easier for us to not be trudging up a hill to get repair. So in my opinion, I'm at least annually, these labs should be run. When we're creating a protocol for progress and we want to see change, the ideal is every 4 months. There are some people whose insurances won't cover them every 4 months. And so what we do is we run the annual, the big one. We pick our targeted ones that are off and we recheck those more frequently, but we still run, because they all work together, we still run the holistic panel annually. So you are going to take this, when you get your labs back, you're going to take your yellow marker and you're going to say, these are the things that are off. You're going to take your book and you're going to define what the heck do those things mean. You can ask in the membership section too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your protocol for progress sheet and you're going to fill out, let's say sedimentation rates off, my FSH is through the roof, I'm just predicting here. My FSH is through the roof, my sedimentation is off, and my reverse T3 is 298, right? We're going to go month by month and we're going to track those, or if you do quarterly by quarterly. The other thing to inquire with the physician is, let's say we have one thing that's way off, like a CRP. You can inquire with the lab, if I do cash pay and we do this every 30 days, what would that cost me? Okay. And you can also inquire with alternative labs, because let's say we have your CRP is through the roof and we want to know if our nutrition protocol is effectively creating a homeostasis. I'm a big, it's got to work, right? Or I don't care whose name it has on it, it's got to go. That's why we don't have one plan, right? So let's say, for example, we can identify a marker that's significantly out of balance. We have had where it's $24, $22 if the doctor writes a requisite for it, where you can go to an independent lab. So sometimes Quest or LabCorp will have those that you can run. So the biggest thing that we want to do is we want to say our health wish list is going to be a health checklist. I'm going to start banging those things out and checking those things off, because I'm not going to feel like okay and not moody. I'm going to have an abundance of energy and I'm going to be swinging from the chandeliers, right?
I'm game.
Okay. In order for us to get to that protocol for progress, we have to define where we're at really concisely for anybody that we're going to bring into the fold. We have to give them a super clear vision of where we're going. And then we have to define markers that we can change, and change only comes about through nutrients. And how do I know this? Because I can't tell you how many people take cholesterol medication and then they go off cholesterol medication and their cholesterol goes higher. It can be life-saving medication, but it will not alter or fix a problem unless we're talking about something pathogenic, like antibiotics was the last invention in pharmacological usage that isn't symptom only supportive. And thank God for the ones that are symptom supportive. You know, we need to get out of pain. We need to address depression. We need to address anxiety. But even if we are doing that pharmacologically, it will only be nutrients that come back in and create the homeostasis so that our body can work at the optimal. And, you know, we have clients that come in that are on 8 medications, and maybe our goal is to take that 8 to 5. Maybe our goal is to keep the 8. We have people that are going through chemotherapy and they want to stay on that med, and we've got to keep them as healthy as possible so that the drug can do what it's supposed to do. There is no judgment on where you want to go. The only thing is, know that I'm always going to push you a little bit further towards that outrageously. Okay? Okay. Melissa, do you have any questions for me before we kind of wrap it up?
I do have one quick one. When I have noticed that I've gotten labs done before, they always will say that I'm within normal range, and it's super frustrating because I feel like my body's not functioning the way it should be, but to them it's within normal range, so I'm okay.
Right. So one of two things are going on with that. One, we have not run the right labs.
Okay.
So there's two reason why I say two things is that we say, that's interesting. I'm going to use example, you know, they've got ginormous welts, their knees are swollen this big, they should have elevated eosinophils, they should have elevated CRPs. We get a CRP and an eosinophil that's totally normal. And I go, wow, that's weird, because that's the traditional inflammatory pathway that we would see the chemistry going off with those kinds of symptoms. So we have to take a step back and say, okay, what is our body telling us, and what are alternative pathways of labs that we can run? So in that particular case, it was a parasitic issue. So yeah, so we were thinking it was like a rheumatological arthritis issue, and it wasn't. So one, we need to broaden the net. We need to keep looking we say, okay, check, these are normal. The other thing that can happen sometimes, and we've seen this question in our community, is sometimes our body is manifesting so much dysfunction outwardly in order to try to keep the chemistry at homeostasis. So your labs are normal because you're growing a beard, right?
Oh my God.
You said it. So when you start to unravel that, I have a person whose labs are normal and they shouldn't be, we say, cool, we're going to start unraveling this mess here. We're going to start unknotting this yarn. So more than importantly, we talk the doctors into a 6 months recheck on those labs. Anytime we see more than a 10-pound of weight loss change or 10-pound of weight gain change, it's a great time for a recheck on labs. So with those people that have normal, I say, look, let's do this. We've got this normal here. Obviously, things aren't normal. Let's say one of two things happen. The doctor's willing to run more, the doctor's not willing to run more. Either way, let's see if we can't shake things loose, and let's see if we can't change the chemistry by shrinking the fat cells. That will change the hormone cascade. We did this when I was working in the fertility world really, really strongly. We could alter LH and FSH when we did a drastic 10-pound weight loss, like super fast. I mean, because we're pulling labs every 3 to 5 days on that. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And then I started studying adiponectin and leptin and why that happens and all of that. So I would say it's okay. It doesn't mean things are normal. It means your body is creating a new normal, and we're not okay with that. Okay. So don't walk away when that happens. Lean in even more and say, oh my, be in awe of your body. How awesome are you that you can manifest a beard as a woman, that you can manifest highs and lows in an emotion that no one's ever seen before. Like, you got to be gentle, and you got to be in awe, and you got to be the biggest cheerleader. And think of how you handle your daughter, right? You know that when you double down in having faith that goodness is going to come tomorrow, that's the only way you're going to get it. Right?
Very true. Very true.
All right, guys, I want you filling out your sheets, questions below. We'll do more of this. Melissa, I can't thank you enough. And I know that everybody in this community is going to be so grateful for you being so vulnerable and sharing with us. It's awesome. And I hope this really helped you guys. Love you all. Bye, guys.
Bye.